In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, to whom we all have to turn back. Honorable listeners and respectable audience, you know that we have started a series of linguistics. In linguistics, we have commenced the chapter that is known as translation studies. In translation studies, I told you about equivalence and its first type, formal equivalence. In formal equivalence, I told you that it is also known as literal translation, which is used mostly for religious purposes. It means it is used for religious translation and its focus is on form, structure, and style. And it tries to convey the message as it is from the source text into the target text. Listeners and audience, today I'm going to talk about another type of equivalence, and that is dynamic equivalence. Remember, dynamic equivalence is the second type of equivalence which is introduced by Eugene Nida. What is dynamic equivalence? What is the strength of dynamic equivalence? And what are some uses of dynamic equivalence? And also the weaknesses as well. Remember, at the end, I will also tell you that which type of perspective or which type of translation method should be adopted, either formal one, formal equivalence, or a dynamic equivalence. So be with me and listen to this lecture from beginning until end. Listeners and audience, a dynamic equivalence is also known as sense for sense translation. Dynamic equivalence is defined as the type of translation where a translator converts or translates the meaning or the message of the source text into the target text with natural flow and meaning. Remember, here the focus is on the natural flow. Here the focus is on the meaning rather than words. Whenever we are talking about sense for sense translation, it is mostly prioritized in literary translation. Literary translation means whenever we are talking about poetry, stories, and other novels and dramas. This type of translation is very understandable and comprehensive and comprehensible related to figures of speech, idiomatic words or expressions, and figurative language. And thirdly, proverbial statements. The focus of this type of translation is to convey the cultural context as it is. Listeners and audience, is I told you that there are certain sentences in a language where it is not possible to translate them in literal translation. So when it is not possible to translate them in literal translation or in formal equivalence, then the translator, he or she shifts to dynamic equivalence or sense for sense translation. Remember, here the focus is on meaning. Here the focus is on the message, not on the structure, not on the form. Now, what is the strength? I already mentioned about the strength of this, that it is used in literal translation, in literary text, for example. Secondly, its focus is on natural flow. Natural flow is very important. For example, if we are talking about literal translation, yes, it tries to keep the original text, the style, the grammar, the words and vocabulary, but there is no natural flow in literal translation. So to maintain natural flow, uh, sense persons or dynamic equivalence is used. Now the question arises, what are the uses of dynamic equivalence? Dynamic equivalence is used in poetry, drama, some speeches, as well as novels as well, and figurative language, idiomatic expressions, and proverbs. Now let's come to the weaknesses. What are the weaknesses? There could be so many weaknesses of sans persons translation or dynamic equivalence as well. Like the first one, it does not focus to the style, form, and structure, but it conveys the intended meaning with a natural flow. So maybe the original structure can be lost. I'm talking about the structure of the first language, the structure of the original language. Secondly, sometimes the translator can mislead the people by adding his or her own idea in translation. Interpretation, I'm talking about. In the translation, maybe he could add his own idea. That can be also the violation of the original text. Another weakness is that it is not used for legal translation, for religious translation, for political translation. Why? Because even a small mistake can create a problem. However, it doesn't mean that it cannot be used. It can be used, but with very careful way in order to convey the same message that is in the original text. Now, the last point which I'm going to teach you, that is, now which perspective is mostly liked by Eugene Nida. Eugene Nida mostly liked dynamic equivalence. Why? Because according to him, dynamic equivalence or sense per sense translation, it has a natural flow and it has the impact of the original text. It means it presents the original text into the target text as it is. And here the translator translates the original text into the target text so much so that it has the same impact it is the original text has on its own reader. So same effect it has for the target text readers. Now the second view of Nida is that whenever the message is conveyed in a better way in a literal translation, it will be more better. The style, the structure, the form, and the meaning and the words could be protected. However, if it's not possible to convey the original message of the source text into the target, then according to Eugene Nida, dynamic equivalence is more better. So hope that this topic is clear to you. Thank you.